I'd like to introduce Canon Wing. She's going to help us understand creating connection, especially in the world we're in. She's an expert in naming and many other things, and I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say for us. Welcome, Canon.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for a wonderful welcome and for being a wonderful person and gathering us all together, allowing us to create new communities online. I mean, hanging out in the neighborhood is now hanging out on a Zoom call. I think Mr. Rogers would be proud of us. And I've been thinking a lot about Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Mr. Rogers is a wonderful example of a person who welcomed the world into his home, who inspired love and trust of millions. Let's just take a quick poll. How many of you can put it in the chat, loved Mr. Rogers as a kid? If you love Mr. Rogers, type a big yes if he was your homeboy. Let him hear you in the chat. Right? There's so many articles, so many documentaries, and now the chat is blowing up. I'm so glad you love him too. Let him hear you. You know, even now, the film with Oscar winner Tom Hanks, they're all for that purpose of just marveling at this man's ability to consistently show up warmly and lovingly for every person he interacted with, both on camera and off. You know, he reached celebrity brand status, but he never lost sight of his highest potential of helping others to get through emotional difficulties. Millions of people around the world, although they never met Mr. Rogers personally, opened their homes and their hearts to him every week for decades, and loved him for being their neighbor. As a latchkey kid of divorce, I often say Mr. Rogers was my parent, and he was. Every week, he taught me how to love my neighbors, which is the single most common value or ethic of every religion on this planet that we share. Think about how powerful that is for a brand's values and ethics. Can you think of a modern brand with the same values and ethics as Mr. Rogers? If you know it, definitely put it in the chat. One I can think of is Tom's Shoes with the 1-for-1 price point, right? That's being a good neighbor. Oprah Winfrey with the sheer plethora of services she provides for happy, healthy neighbors around the world. Her neighborhood helpers include Dr. Phil for your family's mental health, Nate Berkus for your home's peace and harmony, Dr. Oz for your real age physical well-being, Super Soul Sunday for your soul, Book Club for your intellect. Mr. Rogers would definitely be proud. And just to throw in an example of a brand that's not as high profile as Oprah, but has really branded their values and ethics, Motel 6 with their tagline, "We'll leave the light on for you." Consider this. Being alive is a continuum of consumption. And right now, the whole world is looking to elevate the way we consume. The world is demanding we do better by our earth, by our workers, by our neighbors, by our values and ethics. In this very moment, choosing to stay in and shut down businesses is a global demonstration of our human desire to be a good neighbor. Companies that employ protective practices have always performed about 10 times better than other companies, according to Harvard Business Review. And companies known specifically for doing their part to heal the planet are already climbing up the Fortune 500. In fact, according to the World Wildlife Foundation, within the last few years, nearly half of the Fortune 500 companies have launched sustainability goals to cut back on carbon emissions and embrace renewable energy. And they're doing this because it's what we, the people, have demanded with our wallets. It's a megatrend. Today, we're going to do a deep exploratory dive to reveal your brand's very foundation, your values and ethics. And it's through the expression of your brand's values and ethics that your ideal individuals grow to love and trust your brand. Love and trust equals brand loyalty. And no matter what business you're in, brand loyalty is your business plan. Having clearly branded and consistently upheld values and ethics, that's the heartbeat of your brand. That's what reaches out to better the lives of the people you want to call your customers. Your brand offers amazing products and services that can make your customers' lives better. But ask yourself, why? Why is your brand dedicating itself to this mission? What is the higher meaning? What is the greater purpose? It can't be anything so common as to just make money. That's level one of owning a business. Your brand's values and ethics are bigger than a sale. They are the touchstones that guide your brand's ultimate sustainability, and your sustainability is equal to your impact. Your values and ethics are born within the very heart of your brand, surrounded by all of the vulnerabilities and strengths of that human need your brand is fulfilling. And they are the very principles that will make your brand grow and become an inspiration to millions. And so I've been thinking about this. There's a reason why Gary Chapman says that one of the 5 love languages is acts of service. When we love someone, really and truly love someone, it's because of what acts of service they are happy to provide us. It's right. It's what they do. They choose to provide us those services because of who they are inside, because of their values and ethics. The brands we truly love are no different. We have a lot of options when it comes to goods and services, especially now we're all shopping online. But we give our loyalty to a brand like we give our loyalty to a true friend. So when I first started out as a namer, I didn't know anything about branding. I was 3 days out of college teaching poetry to gang kids as a part of the AmeriCorps program. And I was obsessed with the power of story to better someone's life. I had no idea that's exactly what great branding is. It's an interactive story to better a life. So over the last 22 years of creating names, taglines, and messaging for brands like Capital One, Hershey's, Puma, Kraft, Bear, Honda, Samsung, and hundreds more, I learned what all the Fortune 100s don't want entrepreneurs to know, because anyone can do it. The products and services I've named have earned over $3 billion in sales. And as Mary Claire magazine put it, you're probably wearing, eating, or driving something I've named today. Not to mention paying for something online with one of the 4 major credit cards I've named. It's true, I meet people all the time who are in love with the products I've branded. They share with me stories about how these products have infused their lives, bettered their lives. Getting people in love with your brand is your business plan. So how do you do that? You build your brand like a great hometown using the same 10 branding landmarks of every great hometown. And I'm going to walk you through the 10 branding landmarks in a minute. But there's one thing I figured out that really made me the secret weapon of the Fortune 100. And that's how to ace the blink test. So at the end of my talk today, I'm going to give you a gift. And that's the answer key to the blink test. It'll be at canonwing.com/A2B. Right? Adversity to prosperity is a little long, so we did /A2B. Okay, so the thing is, I believe that it has always been the entrepreneur, the business leader, who's changed the world. And that's what we're all here right now to do, right? To make the world a better place than it was before we were all told to go home and reflect on keeping our neighbors safe and healthy. Ask yourself, do you want a brand that's meaningful, memorable? How about loved around the world? Today, we're going to do a deep dive on one of the most powerful, permeating, persuasive, and yet most overlooked out of all the 10 branding landmarks. It's the one most often skipped over by newer companies and by those that never make it to that sweet spot of massive brand loyalty. And that is branding your values and ethics. And today I'm going to show you how you can pump like sustaining life energy into your brand simply by making your values and ethics the beating heart at the center of it all. Consider your brand's values and ethics as the core of your brand's character. The people in life that are the easiest to get to know, I love that you were talking about Rumi, well, because the people that you can get to know the easiest are the people who know themselves, right? Know thyself. Think of a person in your life that you consider to be of strong moral character. Picture someone you really trust. Who is who is that person for you that you can call up anytime, you know the one, day or night when times are tough? Ask yourself, how do you know you can trust them? Just think about it for a moment. If you have the answer, definitely share it in the chat. How do you know you can trust them? What is it that you know about them that wins your trust? We don't give our trust to everyone. We don't give our trust upon first meeting someone, just like we don't give our trust to a brand upon first sight. You give your trust when you know what they stand for, and equally important, what they would never stand for. Your brand is as strong as what it stands for as at what it will never stand for. This person that you've given your trust to, you don't have to worry they're going to waver on their principles, because they've consistently proven to you time and time again to be true to who they are at their core. They've proven to be true to their values and ethics. Your brand's values and ethics are how your ideal individuals, your customers, get to know, love, and trust your brand. That's why it's so important to know who your brand is down to the very core, so that through the expression of your values and ethics, you can show up consistently for people who will in turn repay your brand with more than just money. They will give your brand their endorsements to everyone they know. Did you know that we are 50 times more likely to try a new brand from word of mouth advertising, which is free, by the way? That's because someone we trust is vouching for your brand. In the words of MasterCard, this trust, this sharing, this endorsement is priceless, right? Your brand community consists of both you, your employees, and your customers. A lot of people think of it just as their customers, but it's the entire community. Your brand's values and ethics should be so strong enough to lead your brand community to a greater future. Kind enough to relate to their vulnerabilities, very important, and courageous enough to withstand whatever difficulties life presents. If your values and ethics can do all that for your brand community, the money will surely follow. So let's get into this. Let's take a look at Starbucks, another mega brand shared around the planet. The first listed among Starbucks' values is creating a culture of warmth and belonging where everyone is welcome. Won't you be my neighbor? Sounds just like it. It makes sense for a community coffee house, right? I mean, people meet up for coffee, they do business over coffee, they share their heart with their friends over coffee. Coffee itself is its own like culture of community that spans the globe. Unfortunately, Starbucks had some very non-inclusive policies that resulted in a major public backlash. A Starbucks franchise in Philadelphia, two Black men entered a Starbucks, took a seat, and started to chat without placing an order. After a short while, one of the men asked to use the restroom, and he was told no by the cashier, who informed him he couldn't use the restroom because it was for paying customers only, and asked the man to leave. When the men refused to leave or buy anything, the cashier called the police. There was no public disturbance, no arguing, not even a raised voice. The cashier believed they were following Starbucks protocol by contacting the authorities. A few moments later, several police officers arrived like a raid, surrounded these two men who were just sitting there, not hurting anyone. And as it turned out, they were waiting for a friend who wanted to treat them to coffee. And it was a huge, horrible misunderstanding. After all the media backlash and the internal investigation, the incident cost Starbucks around $12 million to set things right and begin to rebuild trust from their community. I got an email from Starbucks this morning, and the subject line was, "We're still here for you." Kind of sounds like, "Won't you be my neighbor?" Mr. Rogers was quite brilliant. Because values and ethics are so vitally important to building your brand strong, so crucial to keeping your brand sustainable through all the challenges every great brand must get through with grace, as we've seen through the ups and downs of the Fortune 100. The way you can scale your brand over time is by staying true to your values and ethics every time. And it all starts with acing the blink test. The big brands with massive brand loyalty have spent millions of dollars in research, marketing, and testing to ace the blink test, because they know what you're about to know. It's the make it or break it moment for a brand, 24/7, year after year, decade after decade, as I will show you today. Now let's talk about the 10 landmarks of branding, which are the same 10 landmarks of every great hometown. You want your brand to feel like home. Home is where we feel safe, safe enough to grow, to express new sides of ourselves. What else is branding than an invitation to grow, to express new sides of yourself? Here are the 10 landmarks of every great brand: name, tagline, logo, story, website, social media, products and services, campaigns, blog, and finally, most importantly, values and ethics. And today we're going to touch on all of them through the eyes of that blink test. Those first 3 to 5 make it or break it seconds so your brand can come out of nowhere and be an inspiration to millions. And we've been focusing on values and ethics because they should be expressed in every single one of those branding landmarks. They are the foundation for building your brand like a beloved hometown. The values and ethics of a brand are what make it feel like home, make it relatable. When a person encounters a brand and says, yes, this is me. Finally, someone made the thing I've been looking for all along. This is so me. The me that they see is really your brand's values and ethics aligning with theirs. Because we're all shopping online today. Today's consumer market is intimate, and the decision to buy is emotional. We know what your brand is doing. We know what your brand isn't doing. We read reviews. We care about what your employees are saying about working for your company. We actively sniff out discrepancies within a brand because we have so many choices online and so many ways to make informed buying decisions based on our values and ethics. And we will discard your brand in the blink of an eye if we aren't aligned with your values and ethics, even if we've used your products for years. Failing the blink test recently cost Gap, a beloved company for years, $100 million in just under a week. You only get 3 to 5 seconds to pass the blink test, but just like any test, it can be aced if you study your subject. When your ideal individual first encounters your name, tagline, and logo, they decide how they feel about your brand in those first 3 to 5 seconds. The decision to delete or to dive in happens in the blink of an eye. One blink, and it can make you millions or lose you millions of followers. So what is the blink test? In the wildly successful book, Blink, by the Power of Thinking, right, Without Thinking, by Malcolm Gladwell, the world was introduced to the science behind rapid decision-making. The first impression is an emotional impression. People often won't remember exactly what was said, but they will remember how they felt. We've all heard these adages about first impressions, like the first impression is the most important one. You never get a second chance to make the first impression. Always make a first impression. But have you ever wondered why first impressions are so important to us? Because the decision to allow someone new into our lives is an emotional decision. It's vulnerable. We don't know if we can trust them yet. Whether we're hiring someone new, dating someone new, or just passing someone by briefly on the street, our first reaction to the encounter is an emotional one. We often go with our gut. So research has shown that the decision to buy is unequivocally emotional. Get this. They put people in MRI scanners and show them the same objects, like the same purse or the same watch, one with branding and one without. The results revealed that the same parts of our brain lit up when we recognize a loved brand as when we recognize a loved family member. That is so powerful. When encountering a brand for the first time, we process it the same way as meeting a person for the first time. We get a feeling, and that feeling influences how we choose to proceed. As a brand, you have 3 to 5 seconds to make that first impression, to influence your ideal individuals, to get a feeling that your brand is right for them. We see 5,000 ads a day. We delete 99% of that. On top of that, we only remember 80% of what we see a day, ads or no ads. So as a brand, those 3 to 5 seconds are when you have their attention before they decide to delete you or decide to join you. That's the blink test. And what do they see in those make it or break it seconds? Your name, tagline, and logo. Ask yourself, Does your brand's blink test inspire an emotion? Can you easily name that emotion? In the chat, write the emotion your name evokes or your name tagline and logo evokes. Is that emotion consistent across all three? Tagline, name, and logo. Remember, we trust what's consistent. A good way to think about branding is to think about the first impression you make on a new people you meet. They don't know, love, and trust you yet. You must make the impression that they could love and trust you once you get to know them, right? Ever meet someone's parents for the first time? How many verbal, nonverbal cues, hints, stories, family histories, anecdotes did you try to squeeze into that first 2-hour dinner? Okay, now imagine you only had 3 to 5 seconds to make that impression. And now imagine that they saw 5,000 other suitors that day. That's the blink test. A brand's name, tagline, and logo are the first thing your ideal individuals encounter. They are the face, the introduction, the handshake of your brand. Okay, so we all see 5,000 branding messages on a typical day. We're professional deleters. And unless in that 3 seconds when your brand has their attention, they say, finally, finally, someone made the thing I was looking for. And unless they lean in for the next 2 seconds and think, this is my tribe, this is the future I want, unless they feel, you get deleted. So in Blink, Malcolm Gladwell suggests that this initial gut reaction is accurate far more often than not. However, the split decision-making process can also be inherently flawed because it's based on our experience and knowledge, which can be limited or even too specific. So in branding, this is why it's so important to value every vulnerability. Know your ideal individual so well that your name, tagline, and logo help them to overcome their past negative experiences, their limiting belief systems, their obstacles to buy. It boils down to this. The brand that knows them the best is the brand that passes the blink test. So let's go over the secrets for passing the blink test. When starting with your name. And if you haven't yet, try to put in the chat the emotion that your brand name inspires. It's a wonderful way to take that challenge and think through it. So with your name, the thing to remember is that clarity outperforms clever every time. A mistake new companies often make when naming their brand is choosing something that's too personal, like an inside joke. This happens a lot when people ask me, what do you think of the name of my company? I don't get it. It's a joke. I'm not in on, right? The blink test is pass fail. And choosing a name that requires your ideal individual to figure it out is a fail. Remember, people will remember how you make them feel. And even if your name is kind of funny or cute, if your ideal individual doesn't understand it immediately, they'll feel like they don't get it. They don't understand. People don't like to feel like they don't understand. It's likened with feeling stupid or like they miss something or like they don't belong. So to pass the blink test, you want your name to feel like home, welcoming, familiar, and inclusive, whatever that may mean to your ideal individual, and not necessarily what it means to you personally. Today, Subway is one of the world's most successful sandwich stores ever. I love them because they have the veggie one for me. When Subway was founded, it failed twice because of the name. The first name was Pete's Super Submarines. The store lost money the first year, so the founders thought it would be funny to change the name to, get this, Doctors Associates Inc. Yeah, this was based on an inside joke about one of the founders paying off his medical tuition with sandwiches. People didn't get it. Of course they didn't get it. And not getting it is a huge turnoff. Annoyed and confused are not the best emotions for inspiring a sandwich craving. And under this weird, misleading doctor name, Subway nearly sank. When naming your brand, don't play hard to get. Clarity outperforms clever every time. Let your ideal individual know that you want them to be part of your brand community by being clear, open, and inviting. Subway is clear, open, and inviting. I am reminded of a Chinese proverb. The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their right name. Know the emotion you wish to inspire in your ideal individual and choose a name that calls that emotion into being, right? That's why I'm asking you to write your brand's emotion in the chat. Challenge yourself to call it out by the right name. Next in the lineup of the blink test is the tagline. Studies show that 8 out of 10 of the average consumers will read a tagline, while only 2 out of 10 people will read the first paragraph. Typically, a first paragraph would contain details about your brand's story, reveal its values, and make a promise for a greater future. To pass the blink test, your tagline should capture the essence of all three. So how does one boil down a brand's entire story, its value system, a promise for a greater future in all one concentrated sentence? The answer again is by knowing the emotion you wish to inspire, being able to call it out by the right name. Choosing a tagline that calls that emotion into being. That's not all. Your tagline should be an invitation that, should your ideal individuals choose to accept, holds the possibility of having a better life. Your tagline should be an invitation to a greater future. This is where our mantra at Inspiration to Millions comes into play, that value every vulnerability. When you value every vulnerability your ideal individuals have, it's really your time to shine as a brand, as a friend, as a leader, and as a community. Your ideal individual, when presented with your brand, is going to be faced with some limiting beliefs based on their past experiences. These limiting beliefs are the obstacles to buy that your brand must overcome, all in the 3 to 5 seconds of rapid decision making, the blink test. And the most common obstacles to buy are mindsets around time, money, ability, and peer pressure. So Nike provides us with a great demonstration of how a tagline can change the game by valuing every vulnerability. Get this. Nike started out as a niche running shoe company that only really appealed to a certain type of male athlete. Soon after a successful initial launch, Nike began struggling to stay relevant. Nike was failing the blink test with women. Nike was failing the blink test with people who weren't naturally athletic. Nike was failing the blink test with people who struggled with weight gain, people past a certain age who didn't see themselves as runners anymore. And those demographics accounted for over half of the US population. Nike didn't seem to stand a chance. The company had to lay off 20% of its staff nationwide. And in a last-ditch effort, they called in a few branding experts who came up with Just Do It. Within a year, Just Do It transformed Nike from a men's running shoe company to an inspiring people to make positive changes company. That's powerful stuff. That's the power of branding your values and ethics. And Gandhi once said, in a simple way, you can shake the world. Just do it. Spoke to everyone, men, women, young, the old, the rich, the poor, because it values every vulnerability, time, money, energy, and peer pressure. Don't have enough time to make it to the gym? Just do it. Think you're too old to run a marathon? Just do it. Afraid of what others might think if you fail? Just do it. Nike's customers weren't just inspired to change workout habits either. Nike was receiving waves of fan mail from people saying that just do it inspired them to leave unfulfilling jobs, marry the loves of their lives, and follow all manners of previously abandoned dreams. Talk about a concentrated sentence. Nike's tagline is only 3 words that pass the blink test with flying colors, because it's an emotional, welcoming invitation to a greater future. Just do it. Finally, let's look into the secrets of a great logo. In short, a logo is a simple story. American graphic designer Paul Rand once said, a logo doesn't sell, it identifies. In a blink, your brand's logo should tell your ideal individual a clear and simple emotional story that reveals what your brand is all about. How is that even possible? Because most of my clients come to me with logo ideas that are trying to encapsulate every single thing that their company does, and it's completely not a simple story. So you may have guessed the answer, and it is by knowing the emotion you wish to inspire and designing a logo that simply calls that emotion into being. Saul Bass, another famous graphic designer hero of mine, responsible for the AT&T famous globe logo, he once said that logos are a graphic extension of the internal realities of a company. Internal realities of any company, same as internal realities of any person, are the emotions, the heart of your brand. The simplest truth that brought your brand to life, your brand story, and the logo tells that story in its most simple form, a picture. You know what pictures are worth, right? Most people are better at remembering faces than remembering names. And your logo is the face of your brand. Your ideal individual should be able to see your logo and not only identify your brand, but also identify with the emotional experience of using your brand. Identify with so profoundly they'd wear it on their t-shirt or notebook. Or in the case of Apple, Nike, Adidas, people wear it permanently tattooed on their skin. In fact, people identify so strongly with the brand's logo that changing an established logo can disrupt brand loyalty, even if the product is exactly the same, even if they've enjoyed brand loyalty for decades. Tropicana Pure Premium Orange Juice once tried to change their logo from that iconic orange with that red and white straw poking out. I don't know if you remember those commercials with the kids trying to stab the orange with the straw. It's a classic. And it tells a simple and delightful story. Anyway, Tropicana changed the orange to an up-close shot of a very generic looking glass of orange juice. It didn't look bad, not per se, but the layout was open. It was overall look was fresh and bright, but people looked into the new face of Tropicana and didn't recognize them anymore. Trust was broken. Tropicana's customers were gone in a blink. They moved, and it cost Tropicana $137 million in sales in just over a month. Did I mention failing the blink test can be very expensive? Gap had this similar experience when they changed their classic navy blue block logo to something else, and it doesn't even matter what they changed it to. What matters is that the face of Gap's brand loyalists that they had known and loved for 20 years just disappeared overnight. And by the end of the first day, the social media backlash for the logo change was so severe, Gap pulled off one of the fastest recalls of all time. In just 6 days, the classic navy blue logo had returned all over the globe. And the cost to Gap for this dire blink test fail was $100 million in 6 days. So when looking at your logo, today's ideal individual wants to self-identify. Know your ideal individual the best and design a logo that relates to their internal reality. The brand that knows them the best passes the blink test. And that's what gains brand loyalty. No matter what business you're in, brand loyalty is your business plan. The blink test is something many brands dread, but when you have the answer key and you know your ideal individual is the best, you'll pass the blink test. I've also included on canonwing.com/A2P your values and ethics blueprint, so you can become a beloved brand and an inspiration to millions and stay that way. I wish I had time to go through all 10 of the branding landmarks like story, website, social media, products and services, campaigns, and blogs, because each of them hold their own blink test answer key. But today we're focused on what we should be focused on. Number 10, branding landmark, values and ethics. Everything about your brand should always begin and end with your values and ethics. This is the foundation and the element many other brands are missing when it comes to passing the blink test. There are many do's and don'ts when it comes to branding your values and ethics. All of them are in the blueprint I'm giving you. Today we'll go into the top do and don't. Let's get into it. Okay, so do, brainstorm on each limiting belief your ideal individual has in relation to the greater future you offer. There is gold in that brainstorm, right? Don't forget to value every vulnerability it takes to overcome each limiting belief. Each one of those could be a possible tagline and definitely a campaign or a blog. A limiting belief is an obstacle to buy. These limiting beliefs are usually centered around, like I said, time, money, energy, or ability. I don't have the time to do this and run my usual business. I can't afford to do this passion project. Who am I to have such dreams anyways? I'm too old, too young, too tired, too inexperienced. What if I fail? What if my family sees me fail? What if my colleagues see me fail? What if my you'll never amount to much fourth grade teacher sees me fail? It's amazing how these limiting beliefs hatch onto us at such a young age, and they rob us daily until we let them go. Your brand must help your people let them go. Right there is an act of service, a love language for your brand that will help form the bond of brand loyalty. Your brand's values and ethics should help your ideal individuals overcome specific obstacles by facing those limiting beliefs head on, right? Just do it. Accepting help from a brand can be as emotional as accepting help from a person. That's why our brains are lighting up in the MRI scans. And when you create your values and ethics right, it's the right choice for this person with these limiting beliefs. We first have to admit to ourselves that we need help with removing a limiting belief that is blocking our path. And that is a vulnerable position for anybody to be in. It's hard to admit that we're standing in our own way. You want your ideal individuals to feel safe enough to open up to you. You want them to know they aren't alone. Your community of brand loyalists are their new support system for letting go of those limiting beliefs. The Ironman Marathon. Ironman is a name that helps people let go of limiting beliefs. Obama's Yes We Can campaign helped people let go of a limiting belief. When people let go of a limiting belief because of your brand, they love your brand. You freed them to achieve their dreams. And that makes them leap to join your brand. And it makes them tell everyone they know to join too. 50 times more likely to buy from word of mouth advertising. I wish I could go through all of them with you, but I am running out of time. So in the Values and Ethics Blueprint, like I said, canonwing.com/A2P. You follow the guidelines of the do's and don'ts. And in there are inspirations for you to brainstorm on each limiting belief your ideal individual faces when presented with that greater future you're offering with your brand. And once you've chosen your values and ethics, you have your foundation for building your brand to become an inspiration to millions. To make this super easy for you, in the blueprint, I also provide you with lots of examples of brands that ace the values and ethics blink test to inspire you in all the ways you can clearly express these values and ethics throughout your brand. You can do this. You can ace the blink test and you can grow your brand today. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining me in this deep dive into one of the single most powerful branding landmarks of every great brand. Your values and ethics are the cornerstone to success, sustainability, and scalability for your brand. And you now have the tools for creating a rock-solid foundation to build your brand upon, your values and ethics, so you can come out of nowhere and be an inspiration to millions. Remember, when choosing your values and ethics, let your heart be your guide. It's through love that we connect and relate to one another. So I always end my talks with our values and ethics at Inspiration to Millions, and that is to remember to love what you do and love how you do it. Thanks so much, guys.
Canon, one immediate question that comes up is, how do your actions in this time relate to your brand? Are they expressions of your brand? Are they turn around the corner of your brand? People are choosing different actions. They're choosing ways to help. They're choosing ways to withdraw. They're choosing ways to show up. And some of them are choosing ways that may endanger other people. So how do our actions reflect our brand, and how do we extend our brand or extend our connection with our audience by how we behave?
Well, right now, everyone's hyper vigilant about what a brand is doing. Absolutely. So it is right now a time for your brand to shine or to be its own demise, for sure. The actions of your brand are affecting how people are deciding to stay with you or leave you right now. So we were able to be shopping, grocery shopping last week. I think that's about stopped now. But at Whole Foods, we could see, and at Costco both, we could see the entire staff constantly wiping everything down. We saw that Costco had put up shields for their staff at the cashier area, right? And I found myself saying, Costco is such a good company, right? Because, and I felt good about buying our groceries there and buying our elderly neighbors groceries there, because they were doing everything they could to take care of us and their employees together. Like I said, your brand community is not just your customers, but it's also your employees.
So a friend of mine uh, was getting takeout last week at a restaurant, and the restaurant had two prices. They had their regular price and a much cheaper price for anyone who's been laid off or furloughed because of COVID. So my friend came back there the next time instead of just going there once. He said, "This is going to be my new favorite restaurant," on the basis of that action.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
It's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's a display of our humanity. It's a display of caring about our our neighbors, about caring about our customers. It's a display of, I'm not just in this for money. I'm actually providing a service and I care about you. You're not a number to me. You're more than that, right? You're my own personal dream of owning this business, right? You're a part of that. We're in this together. This moment is a moment where we are seeing humanity as a collective consciousness, as everything interconnected. And your values and ethics are have never been more important. They're always been important. In fact, that's why I'm saying it's a mega trend that, the Fortune 500, the people, the brands that are climbing up that are the ones that are doing sustainability and good, good actions for the planet in various ways, because we're demanding it through our wallets. We're over this, right? We have a very short attention span for anybody's, I'm sorry, I didn't know better, right? That time is quite gone. We can see through everything now because we're online. We're banded together to reveal what brands are really about.
How does physical separation and virtual meetings and all that affect this whole situation?
With branding or running a company?
No, no. In other words, some businesses rely on creating a personal experience,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
How do they achieve their relevance and provide their value, of course, but also provide the emotional connection that they're used to doing in person when they can't do that anymore?
Well, I think this is a trend that hasn't started right now. It's started quite a while back, but video is so very powerful in connection, and really there's so many reasons why, and I know Heather was talking about it too, so beautifully, about how we're visual learners. But a video, our brain, the way it's interpreting video is a personal connection. We are using a lot of our neurobiology to sense predator, prey, right, friend, foe, through facial expressions, the movement, our peripheral vision. So video is a wonderful way, when done right and consciously, to have a personal experience with your brand audience. I think
Yeah.
those who haven't been on the video wagon are coming late, but they're coming quick and fast now.
Okay. So we have a question that says, what if the brand that your emotion creates is different for different customers or different people in your audience? Is that a thing that happens, or is that a confusion? So the question was literally, what if the emotion a certain brand for a certain brand is different for different people?
It's unlikely, but it most likely would be that there's either a confusion in the brand's emotional promise, or people may label, okay, so there's like 5 different kinds of love, right? So you could say your brand's emotion is love. There's familial love, there's romantic love, right? There's unconditional love, there's unrequited love. So there's some variations in that. But if you are looking at your brand and you are thinking, well, some people want the greedy side of me, and some people want the giving side of me. You have a limited path to your success.
Okay.
You've got a ceiling over
What
you.
comes to my mind when you to that question is your earlier statement, clarity outperforms clever. Like
Yeah,
it's hard to be have clarity if you have
mixed
appealing to
emotions.
multiple different types of people.
Yeah.
Uh, I've got a tip that you're running a virtual company across many time zones. So that's something we all would like to know about as well. Like, how do you do that? Or there's things that we need to know about how to do that.
I think it's a wonderful way to run a business. It's a wonderful way for people to be employed as well. Our team's in 10 different time zones, and we do a weekly video that actually starts with our core values. We all win is my favorite one. Well, maybe second to fearless badassery, but we go into our core values. We have a star of the week, and we highlight what one of our employees have done, for the company. We use Basecamp to stay on our task oriented, and we even, like, there's a campfire feature in there. We even talk, like, sometimes when I'm in the middle of a big pitch or getting ready to do a bigger move for the company, I'll ping them on Basecamp and say, send me pictures of your babies, because they really inspire me. And in our team meetings, our employees often have their children on their lap. It makes them happy and healthy, and they just get it done. They're not beholden to a time clock, right? They're beholden to their creativity, their imagination, their initiation. They're rewarded for that. It's more human, and I think that's where we're headed. Certainly now, yeah, we're headed towards
Yeah,
that.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And the feedback from the employees is that they love it very much. They easily can make it to their niece's soccer game and then come back and finish the graphics that they were working on. The team overnight was putting together everything for this, right? Because they're in a different time zone. They're up in the middle of their day while I'm sleeping and working, and I wake up and I get to see it, and vice versa. So it actually speeds up our productivity, doesn't slow it down at all, and definitely lowers the overhead.
um, Good. Uh, you earlier in your talk, you said one of the underlying keys to this is helping people overcome a past negative experience. Can you relate that to us by identifying a negative experience that your brand helps people overcome?
Yes. Okay. So my brand is called Inspiration to Millions, and the tagline is "You were made for this." 99%, maybe 100%. I'm just going to say 99 in case there's someone I can't think of the people who come to me are usually people who have worked for someone else's dreams, and were successful at that. And now they want to do what they were made to do. They had a dream themselves, and for whatever reason along the way, a limiting belief was that they couldn't, right? They needed to, pay their dues or pay their rent or learn their craft more or wait until they had their parents' approval or whatever it was. But they know, but the thing that they share is that they believe they were made for something. They were made to inspire millions to do something, whatever it is that their brand is. And we share that in our branding, and that's who we attract.
I think we have time for one more question. And the last question I have here is, how do you know that you have the right logo that speaks to your values?
The right logo?
Yes.
Okay, so the right logo is something that inspires that emotion most of it, like the Nike swoosh, right? It's motion, right? It's very simple. Actually, the most, if you Google this, the most iconic, long-lasting, powerful, influential brands have the simplest logo, one color, maybe two colors. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they first show me their logos, they're like, I don't know, like seven colors and all, very confusing, right?
Okay.
So less is way more when it comes to logo.